going to talk quickly. we're the end of the train, so we're going to be very quick, and we're going to talk about sustainability. Just so you know, we have a leave behind for all of you that talks about how to have a more impact lifestyle that'll be on the table outside. You can pick one up so you can become sustainable today, right? So sustainability is a word that's been thrown around for several years now and is a very confusing word for many people. I know I was confused until I started up at Columbia working on my master's. The accepted academic definition comes from a report which is called Our Common Future, and it's called the Brundtland Report. So this is the actual technical one, which is sustainable development, is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. All right, here are our experts on how you can become, we're just going to go right for it, how you can be sustainable today in your life. So we have Shelley, Kristen, and Carol. Just describe briefly how this definition does or does not translate for you. And is this what being sustainable in your personal life is for? So I'll start with Shelley.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, sustainability is about us in the here and now, but it absolutely has to be about the future. We all have a responsibility to look after the planet and biodiversity for future generations. And sometimes I think that can be an absolutely terrifying thing for people because they don't know where to start.
Right.
But the definition is absolutely what we should be focused on and find a way to break it down in a way that's meaningful to us. I don't think any of us can do everything, but I think we have to find our path that we're comfortable with and pursue it.
Okay, Carol?
Agreed. Sustainability is so broad and so deep. It's so broad, you probably have seen the UN Sustainable Development Goals, 17 of them that cover everything from climate change to gender equality. So broad, but so deep. We're really going to have to change the way we live, the way we work, how companies operate. So when something's so big, you have to break it up into small pieces, and that's how we can make it a part of our lives, just chip away at it a bit.
Okay.
Exactly, and just to add to that, being sustainable is also about what's sustainable for you to do. Mm-hmm. It's better to be a little bit sustainable and then a little bit more and make decisions kind of incrementally than to try and do it all at once.
Yes.
And also, it's not that anybody needs to go back to tilling their own land and, trying to regenerate exactly the resources they replace, but there's a big difference between, just kind of the laissez-faire attitude that a lot of people have and that.
And just so you know that in general, the businesses that have tried to be more sustainable in how they treat women, how they treat the environment, all that actually show better returns. There are books out there and there's research out there that actually shows it. So maybe let's start with Shelley, because you're our beauty expert. So how does someone in this audience buy more sustainable beauty products? What do you look for? Do you go to Whole Foods and buy everything at Whole Foods, or do you buy only Aveda products? And what are you looking for on the label? How do you know that this is really the truth? I mean, we've just been through the Volkswagen event of them saying that they were treating the environment properly and they were the #1 car company, and now they're not. How do we know it's true?
Yep, sure. Well, I mean, I think we've all touched on the fact that this is a big area, and I think that when you're looking to be sustainable, some things will mean more to you than others. So I think when you're researching your beauty products, I think it's fair to say there's probably not one company out there that's 100% perfect, because I think if we'd found perfection, we'd have found a lot of the answers to the problems that we have today. So what it's important to look for is transparency with the companies the brands that you buy with. So really kind of doing your research, maybe looking online, looking on pack, looking at the marketing materials they have, are they talking about sustainable ingredients? Are they talking about organic ingredients? The origins and provenance of those ingredients. And, it can be that they're working with, small community suppliers, so therefore giving back and helping, communities in disadvantaged areas, actually build trade for themselves. So it's really doing your research, and I don't think it's about aligning with one single brand. I think it's really looking at what's most important to you, and then doing your research. And actually, you know, the best thing you can do is ask questions of those brands as well, because it's really important to know that your guest and your consumer cares. And if you do care, that can actually make a difference. If enough people are asking the right questions, you know, you can change. That really is the way to change the world, you know, one person at a time.
And one of the big issues is getting things like shea nut, shea butter from small communities that if you mistreat people or you are not giving them enough money for their products, there's all kinds of stuff like that that has to be pushed down into your supply chain, right?
Absolutely. And again, you know, going back to the transparency issue, you know, those companies that are doing a good job will want to tell you about it. And when you start to look at their websites, you'll also see where they need to make progression and improvements as well. And, you know, it's important that you see both sides of the coin for an organization, because you know, none of these issues are easy, but what you want to know is that they're, you know, making the right steps forward.
Right. All right, Carol, you run a sustainability consultancy and have worked for Ernst & Young. In the corporate area of sustainability, you have started a local sustainability committee in Westchester. That's how I got to know you. You've also taught up at Columbia as well. So how can someone in this audience get her community to start on a path to sustainability? If you're a New Yorker, if you're outside of New York, where does she begin? And then also what happens, say you work for a big corporation. Can you walk in, you're not the CEO, what do you do?
Well, let's take the community part of it first. It's really nice. I've had the luxury of being a sustainability professional, but it's really sort of my vocation and my calling, so I love to be a community organizer. And what I've learned is that sustainability can happen anywhere. It can happen in your local school with your PTA. It could happen with a local citizens group, your Chamber of Commerce. All you need to do is start talking about it, and like-minded people start coming out of the woodwork.
And can you give an example of what people might do to make their community more sustainable?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we've done up in Westchester, we have gotten together and decided, because our town is on the Long Island Sound and we want to cut down plastic pollution, we actually got our local legislature to ban plastic bags. And
It's a big deal.
Thank
It's
you,
hard.
thank you, thank you. And what's really important to know about just that initiative, that project, the people who were most intensely involved, they're not professionals. They're not at all people who do this in their daily life, but they're really passionate about this. And so we got together as a committee. We had a very specific target, get a local ban. And
Oh, so you had one target that started the committee. Okay.
exactly. You know, with sustainability, like we've all said, don't take it all on.
Right, it's
Don't
too
boil the ocean. Pick
Right.
one project, pick one gain that you can really build on, and then build some momentum.
Now, talk just quickly, anything, if you're in, you know, middle management in a corporation, can you run in and take everybody's garbage pail away and make them go to the, make them start, you know,
You could, but
recycling?
you may lose some friends.
Okay.
But what you can do, so many major companies have sustainability programs. It's a wonderful way to get involved is knock on the door of those professionals, that program, say you want to get involved, and I guarantee you people are always looking for resources. It's a great way to actually expand your skill set by doing, you know, these kinds of projects. But if there isn't any sort of formal program at your company, I've worked with so many companies where folks have started green teams, and they pick 2, 3 projects that they're really passionate about. It could be cups in the kitchen and, you know, all the paper waste from that. And they get together as a team and advance a project, all sort of bubbling up from the bottom
That's great.
with a green team.
Good. Okay, we're going to talk about food with Kristen. So the food market, obviously, people have gone after the food market for a long time to make quick changes. Last night, for example, I read that the Pacific Institute estimates, this is 2006, the equivalent of 17 million barrels of oil were consumed to create the plastic bottles that Americans consumed for bottled water. That's how crazy. And the other thing they said, it was something like the equivalent of filling up one of your plastic bottles a quarter of the way with oil, if you want to think of it that way. That's how much goes into plastic bottled water, which is crazy, right? It's also known, here's one of the other crazy things, you won't believe one of the biggest CO2 and methane, well, methane is 23 times worse than carbon dioxide, but one of the biggest emitters, does anybody out there know? Cows, exactly. It's cow farts, what can I tell you? And it actually is an enormous problem, and one of the things that they tell you when you first get started in this is stop eating beef. So what else can we do besides just giving up absolutely everything? We can't drink water out of our bottles. We can't eat beef. What are we supposed to do? And where do we start?
Well, it's so funny because there's this thing called a tap where you can like turn the faucet and water comes out and it's free.
I forgot about that. Okay, all right.
It's amazing. And there are these other things that you can eat that don't come from cows, or you can still enjoy hamburger or steak, but just do it once in a while. Do it, once a month or something instead of every other night. There are a lot of changes, like I was saying before, that we can make incrementally without having to give everything up. And that's something that we've seen on Food 52 is, maybe 5 years ago when we started a vegan column, we were a little bit nervous. We didn't know if our audience would be interested in vegan cooking and vegan eating because it seemed like such a special diet that was kind of off on its own and very extreme. But what we found is that basically our entire audience, anyone who's interested in food, is interested in vegan cooking and vegan eating because you don't have to do it all at once. You can do it one night a week for Meatless Monday. You can just start or you can take those ideas and use meat as a garnish as opposed to having it in the middle of your plate like a 8-ounce steak or something like that. So there's lots of little ways that you can make these changes without having to give up everything, and every little change makes a difference.
So there are ways that we can move along, which is
so many,
which is awesome.
Yes.
So let's all talk about what's the biggest falsehood that many people think about in your area that they think is making them sustainable, and they're doing it because they think they're really being good. I don't know if you all read the New York Times piece about recycling, which I wanted to pull my hair out because it was all about how all the recycling that we've done actually may not mean very much, and that people feel very good about it, but it actually doesn't change much in the environment except for the cans. I guess it was cans and plastic, or cans and paper, and that was the only two. So what are the falsehoods that you've run into that trip people up?
I think it's perception rather than reality, to be honest with you. I think we're all kind of guilty of living in a black and white world where everything is either really good or really bad. And the reality is that the world is kind of 50 shades of grey, for want of a better description.
We're having a really good, we're talking about how 50 Shades of Grey. Did you have any idea that was going to be a sustainability discussion? Keep going.
I didn't realize I was going to insert that in there.
Okay, that's all right.
But we do think in many levels of grey. And so I think that's really important when we look at sustainability, because people want the world to be very absolute, and actually it goes back to what we were talking about in terms of choosing what you feel has value. And sometimes you may do something and then you realize that actually that doesn't have the value that you thought it did. That's okay, because your mindset, to me, what's important is that your mindset is focused on sustainability. So, if you then discover, as with the article, maybe there's some question marks, then you can think about course correcting and taking a different path. But I think the most important thing is that sustainability in all its shapes and forms is first and foremost in our minds, and then I think everything else will follow. But I think we just have to lose the desire for the right and wrong kind of way of thinking. because I just don't think we're there yet.
Carol?
I think I'll pick up on your comment about recycling in that article. And I think people have lost sight of the first 2 R's in the 3 R's of sustainability, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle. And we really need, I think, to focus on the reduce and the reuse as well as the recycle. And people are really talking more and more in this space about consumerism and thinking before you shop and being very careful with the types of purchases you make. And I think, you know, one of the fallacies is that we don't have to think about that, and we really do.
Kristen?
Definitely, yes. I would say the biggest falsehood is that, you know, if you buy all organic, you're solving a problem. Or if it turns out that organic labeling is off, then maybe you need to just buy everything at the farmer's market. Those kinds of thinking that way, and then say ordering takeout the other 5 nights of the week. That there's, you know, you kind of have to look at the whole picture, and really just being mindful and cooking more often, honestly, I think is the biggest thing from my perspective that you can do in your home. And you know, that and not using like half a roll of paper towels when you clean your kitchen just because it's the brown roll of paper towels that's recycled. You know, it's, there's, you can look at the whole picture instead of just like thinking, okay, I bought the nice label, the green label, and everything's gonna be okay.
How do we know the difference? This is a thing that's been driving me crazy. How do we know the difference between what's green and what's sustainable? This will be our last question because we're almost at the end here. But how do I mean, if I go out and buy all this stuff that's stamped green or it's recycled, or am I doing the right thing? Or is sustainable a different thing? And is that green stuff, is it really green? How do I know?
I think correct me if I'm wrong, but sustainable to me is a much broader definition, which speaks to the care in which the product that you're buying has been made, from, you know, manufacture to end user and end of life of that product. So to me, it's a more meaningful and deeper definition. I think that when you're looking into and researching the products that you want to buy, I think you'll be more reassured by the sustainability definitions than necessarily green. I think green is a very sort of lightweight term for what we're looking to achieve in sustainability. So I think definitions of sustainability are probably far more meaningful when you're doing your research in this area.
Okay.
I would just add, I think green is a sort of a narrow way to look at things. What I love about sustainability these days is that it pulls in the social component to how something's made. So I really would be concerned if my eyeshadow was made in a part of the world where there was child labor.
Oh,
right?
yes. And that
So-
happens, I'll tell you.
Right?
Yes.
So, you know, I think sustainability really puts social issues on the radar screen in terms of purchases. So that's the biggest difference for me.
Any difference for you in the last minute? You get the last minute.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no real regulation of either term, right? I mean, both of them can kind of be used
That's the problem. Yes.
wherever, but the implication being that, you know, being green is kind of a happy-go-lucky term. Like you've made your best effort, you know, like you've nodded to the environment in your decision. But sustainable, just as everyone was saying, being sustainable is more holistic, and it's about maybe thinking about giving something up, not just buying more in the green package or buying something different, maybe just not buying it.
Right, maybe not buying it,
Right.
absolutely. Terrible to say to anybody who makes products, but
But it could
being
be
choosier.
But it could be even as simple as not taking the bag. So if you're buying something,
Exactly.
you know, don't take the bag that it goes with. It could be really as easy as that.
Yep.
So along that line, those are tips that are for you that are here. We have 9 seconds, but they're on the table, and everybody's given you the 10 best tips so you can walk out of here today, and actually start being sustainable immediately. So thank you all. I appreciate you.
Hi, I'm Claudia Chan and I'm the founder of She Summit. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends and community. At She Summit, we believe there is a leader and change agent inside everyone, and our goal is to unleash you to lead change from where you are for issues that you care about to benefit your life, your family, your workplace, and even the world. There's so many ways to follow us if you're interested in this leadership content. You can actually subscribe to this YouTube channel, of course, but also visit our website where you can sign up for our newsletter and learn more about our community, new leadership courses that we're rolling out, and our 2019 She Summit conference. And I also just launched a podcast based on my book. It's called the How We Rise Leadership Podcast. So please follow us. There's so many ways to follow us. And I'm so excited for you to join our new generation of leaders to lead change again for our lives and for the world.